Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thursday, January 18th. You've tuned into the Nifty podcast. Lots to talk about today. We are joined by Spencer, of course, today. Long time no see, Spencer. Very, very excited to have him on the show. Long overdue. And we'll be discussing all things Pudgy Penguins and how long this run can last. We're going to discuss the current state of NFTs and what other plays to watch for next. And then lastly, we'll be joined by Trevor Owens from Ninja Alerts to discuss his upcoming Pizza Ninjas mint on Ordinals, one of the most highly anticipated mints coming to Ordinals. So this is an absolutely jam-packed show. We're going to get right into it. First off, I'm going to shout out today's BoDoggo of the day, a gentleman named Easy E. So Easy E bought his first BoDoggo and made it his profile picture after not being in the crypto space at all for quite some time. He's got a badass BoDoggo with the champ shirt and a backwards cap, looking great. Tweeted it out. Everyone showed him support. I see Nifty Nick right there responding to him. So big shout out to Easy E, today's BoDoggo of the day. One more shout out is to another BoDoggo, a gentleman named T Trades, for getting him back in to the BoDoggos club, if you will. So you can check out the pinned tweet that Clemente has at the top of the Twitter space, and you can follow both BoDoggos. And the other thing is that Clemente looks like has already won his bet against Nifty Nick regarding the price action of Quantum Cats and the one-of-one Sotheby's auction. Spencer, are you participating in that auction? You're no stranger to buying NFTs from auction houses.
I am not participating in that auction currently, but definitely something that I might take a look at later today.
Oh, okay. So not pursuing it currently, but maybe you'll take a look at it later today.
What is going on? You're actually going to look at buying this cat here?
I don't know. I said I'll take a look. You make it sound like
what's
going on? You're gonna bid, but like,
why are you pocket watching, Nick? You got a bet to pay.
Look,
all right?
I'll say this.
So I'll put the cheddar and get out of here.
At the very least, you should be paying attention to everything that goes through Sotheby's, right? Like if you're in this space, that's a good thing to be doing.
I agree with that without question. And Spencer, how you been, buddy? It's been a long. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
I was going to say on that. I mean, it does seem like a good idea, huh, Spencer?
Yeah. You could see what's there. You could see what's not there. Really important things if you're paying attention to what goes through Sotheby's.
Well, there you go. Look, Spencer, it's been too long. How has everything been going with you? Obviously, we know that your investments are performing well. That goes without saying. I think nearly every single one of them is performing well. How's everything else going with you?
There's other things. I mean, I don't know. Life is good. Like, I think, we're at such a quick-paced part of the market and an exciting part of the market. Things are really good in this neck of the woods. I can't complain. It feels like I was shouting and like nobody was listening for like 2 years, right? Or a year and a half, however long. And the market's finally waking up. People are coming back to the space, and really things for the last 18 months or so were like, okay, there's no capital inflows to crypto, right? There's no capital inflows to NFTs, right? How do you position yourself under the thesis that if there is capital inflows, what's going to run, right? Yep. And so for 18 months, basically nothing repriced against each other. And there was two risks there. One is, okay, am I a madman? Are people going to come back to crypto, or is this shit just over, right? And there was a good chance that it was just over. And so this is the risk, the one, right? All right, capital inflows, Bitcoin spot ETF, the laser eyes hooked us up. This is basically what happened, right? Bitcoin spot ETF, now we have ETH ETF narrative. Great, incredible. You've got alt L1 narratives, Solana stuff is doing great. Our BoDoggos are doing great because of that. Incredible. You got Say running, no exposure to that. That's on me. When I was at KBW, when I was at Token 2049, everyone was talking about Say, and I was like, yeah, I should probably get some of this. And I didn't. That's on me, right? Okay, point in the second. So things are running. Now, when things run, are your bags running, right? And this has been another thing, right? Is one of the almost worst to me is if there's a bull market in the asset class you're in, but the assets that you own are not part of that run, which
Oh yeah,
happens
terrible.
a lot in crypto. And that feels somehow worse than there not being a run at all in crypto, right? And so, okay, I'm supposed to be exposure for my investors to crypto. Crypto is running. Thank goodness our portfolio is running. Like, that's kind of how this feels right now. It's like, oh my goodness, the thesis is playing out, right? And so, yeah, that's how things are.
Awesome. Well, look, I want to touch on a couple things there. We got a lot to talk about. First thing is when, like, I want to point to a few things out to people. So you operate an NFT fund or crypto fund. What is it? What is the fund?
Well, we're an NFT liquid trading fund, but with a pretty loose thesis on what we're allowed to do. So, like, the thesis is make money. Mostly we do that through NFTs because that's my expertise, but like we aren't barred from trading other crypto.
Okay. And how long have you been operating the fund? Like, when did you kick
We launched
that
the fund about a year and a half ago.
A year and a half. And so you raised money from investors, for the fund, and then you deployed that capital largely into Pudgy Penguins at first. Am I right? Like, so, so ladies and gentlemen, so Spencer went to the University of Chicago. I think you're okay with, you've worn this shirt on the show before. You went to the University of Chicago. You studied economics, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were successful as an NFT investor / trader on your own before the fund kind of kicked off.
Correct.
Then you raised a substantial amount of capital, probably not a substantial amount of capital compared to like asymmetric Joe McCann's fund or something like that, but a substantial amount of capital to like your average NFT market participant.
Correct.
And you immediately spent a bunch of that, deployed a bunch of that capital into Pudgy Penguins.
Yeah, we bought a lot of Pudgy Penguins when FTX collapsed. That was, and I should say too, like we have bought Pudgy Penguins at various moments throughout. So our first big position was when FTX collapsed. We bought a bunch when everyone was selling the news on Walmart. We bought a bunch, obviously recently from the 3AC liquidation. So like we've bought a bunch in a couple of moments, right? But
the most iconic is the 3AC liquidation, just because you're literally buying the 3AC Pudgy Penguins from them through, was it like Christie's or Sotheby's?
Sotheby's, actually. Again, pay attention to what goes on in Sotheby's.
Yeah, and that must have been a really cool experience for you. One thing that you talked about is you said, like, during the bear market, you were, one risk is, quote, is crypto going to come back? Well, if you're a Bitcoin person, then you know that Bitcoin is going to come back, because that's just like kind of how it works with the 4-year cycle. So like for me, the whole bear market, I was buying Bitcoin. There was never a thought in my mind of whether Bitcoin would come back. I'm like, this is amazing to be able to buy this for a cheaper price. This is awesome. Easy was buying Solana. That was his high conviction move. That actually turned out to be a better move than buying Bitcoin the whole time from a percent gain perspective. I was watching you buy a ton of NFTs the whole time. Yeah. And that was tougher for me. Not because, I mean, look, I'm an NFT person. Obviously, I host content around NFTs. I've owned and sold and bought a ton of NFTs, but it was hard to see what the future of NFTs was going to be like. And it was hard to make a case to buy an NFT over Bitcoin or an NFT over another liquid crypto. But you were just sitting there when FTX went down, buying a ton of Pudgy Penguins, not buying Bitcoin, buying a ton of Pudgy Penguins. That's the thing that I think is really something, because there was no doubt that Bitcoin was going to come back. When you talk about broader crypto, well, Bitcoin usually brings things up. If you're buying Ethereum, it's the #2 market cap coin in the world. I mean, it's probably going to come back too. You know what I mean? But buying like Pudgy Penguins, buying Bored Apes, buying all the stuff you were buying, and we can talk about the other investments that you have. Obviously, you own a bunch of BoDoggos as well. They weren't around when FTX went down, but that was the part that really that sticks out to me, that I want people to understand, is the level of conviction, not only in Pudgy Penguins, not only in a single investment, but the entire NFT sector of crypto, when it was literally at the bottom. The FTX collapse is the literal bottom for our sector.
Yeah. Well, I think, look, and I'll be honest too, like even I had moments of doubt throughout the last year and a half. I'd be totally lying to you if I didn't have moments where I thought, did I make the right call over this period of time, right? And I think that was like, every time I felt that, I was like, everyone, if I'm feeling that, everyone else must be feeling that tenfold, and that means it's mispriced, right? For the same reason, like I'm sure easy when you were DCAing into Solana, right? Like part of what caused you to want to do that was everyone thinking Solana was dead, right? PO, I think it's probably a little bit different with Bitcoin for you, but I think that like, look, at the end of the day, it's about conviction and it's about like believing in what this is that's going on here, right? Like I'm believing in what role each element plays in it. I think Bitcoin obviously plays a role, right? I think Solana plays a role. My view of this has always been like the coin market that we have, the ERC20 coin market. Now it's not even ERC20, like the L2 Solana coin. I don't even know how you call like a Myro, like a WIF, like whatever those, like the coin market more generally.
The broad fungible token market.
Yeah. So like here's my view, right? Like we're clearly reinventing finance here. That's what's going on. That's what crypto is, right? Coin market is your public markets, right? You have some things that are your currencies, but coin market largely, besides like Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, like the rest of the coins are like your public market. And to me, like NFTs are your private market, right? NFTs are your venture investments of crypto. And the way that that works is that you then have like ERC20 airdrops, right? Like if ApeCoin had never been airdropped to Apes, I don't think Pudgy Penguins would be where they are today, right? But we saw that happen. We saw that outcome. And it's so clear that there will be another to me at least, that there will be another outcome of that order of magnitude. And Pudgy Penguins, look, when Pudgy Penguins were like 2 ETH and ETH was like $1,200, right? That's like 8,000 times 2 times 1,200. That's a $20 million market cap. I mean, anyone who's paid attention like to the sort of shitcoin, meme coin market recently, $20 million market cap is a really low market cap, right? Like even now, right? Pudgy Penguins at 20 ETH. So we have Pudgy Penguins at like, 18, 19 ETH. It's like 18.5 times 8,888 times 2519 on, it's still like what, $400 million market cap. That's like, I mean, bonk is 3x that market cap, right? Like it's crazy to think, right? Like it's just not. And I think people have a little bit of a distorted view of this with NFTs because it feels so psychologically large to buy one, right? Like, oh my goodness, $40,000 for one Pudgy Penguin sounds like a lot, but it sounds like a lot less when you put it in the context of a $370 million market cap, right? Like that's just not, I mean, it's big, right? By a lot of different metrics, that's a very big number, but it's not that big in the context of like what can happen in the other elements of crypto, right? And so you've just got to think that like, another thing too here, and this has always been one of the other big theses on NFTs, is like, in 2016, 17, right? We saw crypto go up. Everyone said it's a bubble, right? Yeah. Then it went down, and for like a couple of years, everyone was like, "Haha, I'm right. It was a bubble." Like, then 2021 comes back and it goes back up, but it goes way higher. Why? Because now it's not a bubble; it's a cycle, and the cycle narrative is like 10x stronger than the bubble narrative, right? And that's where you saw institutions come in. And so the like where we go from here, right? The bull thesis on NFTs isn't, oh, they're going to go back to the highs they had last cycle. It's going to be, they're going to go way higher, right? Why? Because, I mean, you could argue there were NFTs in 2016, but in my view, they're like really, we had CryptoKitties, we had kind of punks, but basically just had CryptoKitties. There's like dinosaur egg ones. Like that wasn't really like the NFT run. It wasn't anywhere, like the real first NFT run was 2020 to 2021. And like that would make this the second. And so the people who thought NFTs were gone for good, the only time that thinking this is over is de-risked for them is watching it happen again and not being exposed, right? All the people, think of all the people sidelined right now who are watching ETH go up in US dollars and Pudgy Penguins go up in ETH. Must feel terrible.
Well, okay. What a way to cap it off, ladies and gentlemen. After such wonderful analysis from Spencer, he just lets everybody know, must feel like shit if you don't have Pudgy Penguins. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, Spencer, everybody's born, everybody dies, but no one is resurrected, right? And so the resurrection is the thing that makes people believe, and we've seen this with Bitcoin over multiple cycles, and I think you were pointing that out. Nick has his hand raised. Nick?
Two questions. The first is, was your Pudgy buy from your first or second fund?
I own a lot of Pudgies. I'll put it that way.
He owns a lot of Pudgies, Nick. Second question, Nick?
Was that not a... the other question is your genuine thesis that basically NFT market caps should be comparable with actual like with meme coins and with other sort of fungible tokens?
So I think that so I think that what we'll see and what we've seen so far is that most NFTs are building towards a coin. I think that that's like pretty de-risked at this point. We saw ApeCoin do that. We've seen Memeland have huge success. I mean, Memecoin is the biggest launch on Binance in the last year, was $meme. And I'm going to repeat that sentence because it's crazy. Memeland was the biggest launch on Binance in the last year, right? And so I actually think coins associated to NFT projects do better than ones that are not, because the project and the company has much longer history than just launching a coin from the beginning of a company, right? And so you have built more provenance, you've built more collector base, you've built more. There's just a lot of things that you get to do to demonstrate your acumen as a builder. And that leads to the launch. And the launch being very successful is a huge key part of the market cap of coins ultimately, right? And so coins associated to NFT projects should be on the higher range of the meme coin market relative to others, right? And then you have to do the math on what do you think the percentage of allocation to the NFT is, right? Usually it's like 10 to 20% of the coins. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. We'll kind of see that market evolve as well, but it's equivalent to like, I think, one round of venture funding in a company, right? So usually one round of venture funding is about 20% of the company. And so NFTs are effectively one round of venture funding in terms of stakeholdership, right?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But despite, so there's one, you're talking about what the comparable valuation is for an NFT project, but there's a distinction, I guess, in my mind of one of the biggest issues blocking that is that there aren't as many items with the NFT project. There is a huge chunk of them that, so you're saying that it's 20%, and so the entire trade here is essentially that. So shouldn't the NFTs be worth 20% of what the token market cap is then?
Yeah. Well, no, because the thing is, this is you get the token allocation, but as we've seen, NFTs after the token airdrop go down in price, but not to zero, right? So you also maintain ownership of the NFT, right? And so, for example, like when Bored Ape Yacht Club launched, 20% of ApeCoin was 50 ETH, right? They went, but you still could sell the ape the day after for 100 ETH, right? So the expected value isn't just the expected value of the token airdrop.
Well, there obviously is retained value with the NFTs. That's the thing that's actually almost somewhat surprising with like a meme coin or something like that. Like, what's the purpose of holding the NFT after the token unlocks? But in this case, in the case of Meme Land, they just haven't fully unlocked, and that's one of the key elements of the underlying project. Bored Ape Yacht Club, you got your tokens and it was done, and then people dumped their apes if they thought
but
that
you can
was
make the argument too, right? Like staking started, and you needed the apes to benefit your staking as well. So it wasn't totally done for Bored Ape Yacht Club, but
okay, fair enough.
I think that part we'll see definitely evolve. Like I see Memeland retaining ape in the NFTs as an evolution of that. But you also have to remember too, like Memeland NFTs aren't very good at their function of being a PFP, right? And so I think one of the interesting things we'll see with Memeland is like Stakeland is going to be very interesting. Like that's something that you should be watching. As much as you should be watching what goes on in Sotheby's, watch what goes on in Stakeland, because I don't like Stakeland says powered by meme. Now, do captains have utility in Stakeland? Do MVPs have utility in Stakeland? Or is it just the meme coin itself? That's a big outstanding question of how they're going to roll this out. And I think, each project will be different. Like we really have two good examples, and that's it, is meme coin and ape coin, right? You got to think we're at least getting a third. Anime is effectively announced, right? Like Azuki's coin is effectively announced. Again, is Pudgy doing a coin? They haven't said so yet, but I would be shocked if that's not on the roadmap, right? Like it seems like something that is being built towards by most major projects. I would even be surprised. Like, I think there's even on the table this cycle, like doodles to do a coin or something. Maybe not. I think they would be a tougher spot to do it, but it just is increasingly clear that the big wins in the space are ERC20s associated to the NFTs. I don't think that's a bug in what NFTs are. To me, that's a feature.
Yeah, I think it's a structure that's developing. Look, we're going to continue to dive deep. This has been fantastic so far. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, the show today is brought to you in partnership, as I mentioned before, with Pizza Ninjas, one of the most highly anticipated Ordinals projects. So we have an action-packed show today. It's minting today. It's brought to you by Trevor Owens, who's a friend of the show, an investor in the Nifty organization, and of course, the founder of Ninja Alerts, and really just a very notable individual in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Look at this video that he's making down in Puerto Rico. Love to see it, Trevor. The Pizza Ninjas are a 1,500 supply profile picture collection inscribed on pizza satoshis. The art's by boozy.btc. This is going to be a very, very fun project to learn about. The collection's minting tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time via Magic Eden's Ordinals Launchpad. If you want to learn more, follow Ninja Alerts and Trevor on X. That's at Ninja Alerts and at TO. Trevor has a highly sought after 2-character username, just at TO. Anyway, moving on, let's kick off this weather report. Signal, are you ready to rock and roll?
Yep, I'm ready to rock and roll. The weather report, it is
I think you
Thursday.
were on the wrong mic, Sig.
Okay, 1 second, very quickly. I'm going to change that mic. We'll talk about the flightless birds. We'll talk about how
there we go.
Is, and we'll have that sound coming in nice and clear. It is Thursday, January 18th. That market volume is coming in at 32 million, Blur 26, OpenSea at 5, Solana at 9.6. If we look at the market leaders, well, it's just green across the board for the ETH side. Pudgy Penguins, obviously, they're up around 35%. You've also got Mockaverse, they're also up around 14%. And you've also got Captains talking about that 9% and Mutants up 6%. It's just green, green, green. Beautiful day. Over the past 24 hours, obviously, it's Pudgies, it's mania everywhere on the timeline as they hit another all-time high. They pumped over 19 ETH. That is a very cool $47,000 as the FOMO continues. Little Pudgies as well. They're a little bit behind, but they actually have gained even more today as they're up almost 50% to 1.9 ETH floor. And the ratio between the big Pudgies and the little Pudgies is 1-10. If we look over on what is happening on the cute PFP side, generally on ETH, there's been that correlation. It's paid off for Sappy Seals. They're up almost 70% to almost 1 ETH as the founder tweeted that he's also going to be talking to some protocols about a token airdrops for seal holders, and he's told everyone to position themselves accordingly. The other cute PFP, obviously, again, Campai Pandas, they're up 20% to 1.85 ETH. If we look over again on ETH, it's the Nakamigos this time. They launched their crypto trading cards yesterday, which featured over 800 NFTs, which were done on a first-come, first-served basis for the Nakamigos and the cloak holders, and it's currently holding a 0.4 ETH floor. The cards, however, did cause some controversy, however, as a very small number of the holders were able to claim, and people noticed spelling mistakes on these AI-generated cards. There was also a bobblehead mint for cloaks and Nakamita holders, which also holds a 0.05 ETH floor. And then lastly, it's all about the meme coins over on Solana. They continue to have the actions. Dog with Hat pumping another 20% to a new all-time high after good old TradFi Franklin Templeton tweets that Ben with Hat. And then we've also got Myro that pumps 54% to a 220 million market cap, and Used Car also pumped 40% to a 24 million market cap. It is all action on the meme coin side over in Solana. That is all for the weather report. It's back to you folks in the studio.
Fantastic weather report as usual. A lot of fun updates there with Franklin Templeton tweeting about dog we've had. That's hilarious. Some updates from the Daily Digest. The Nifty Daily Digest is posted to X every morning and pinned up top. It's also emailed to anyone that subscribes at thenifty.com. First story, Bored Ape Yacht Club shared a few updates, including a revamped website that includes a token-gated survey, bringing in more members to the council and building excitement around their February Other Side event. I saw some notable people like D Farmer actually co-signing this. So we'll have to see what happens with these updates. Next story, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said that Bitcoin supply is not fixed. And that Satoshi is going to erase all the Bitcoin in existence one day. JP Morgan also, of course, very involved in the Bitcoin ETF and has a history of being fined for financial crime, including manipulating the price of gold. Next story, Alpha Centauri kid teases an Opepin set. So that's a very cool drop. That artwork is dope AF for sure. Last story, according to a study by Electric Capital, the United States crypto developers market share has decreased from 40% in 2018 to 26% in 2023. Those are your updates from the Nifty Daily Digest. So look, Signal, you have a question for Spencer. We'll get the mic in front of him again. Go ahead.
Yeah, Spencer, I wanted to ask. So you bought a lot of projects, mostly on ETH, a lot of the older ones. As we see more adoption across different chains, what's your criteria for what interests you going forward?
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is always been my criteria, right? Is like, I think, as with all, this is something that I've carried over as a belief from Web 2 to Web 3 in investing, is you're fundamentally investing in people first before projects. And so, like, I am excited to see, I think with the win of Pudgy Penguins, and with the win of Memeland, like, we will see more net new builders enter the space, or builders that were builders in the last cycle that maybe didn't get it quite right, take another run at it. And we will see people who are good at build projects. One thing that I'll always think back to, I was with a friend of mine at NFT LA during the last bull market. And he said, this scene reminds me of early YouTube. A lot of people in early YouTube were right place, right time, and kind of rode the wave. And it took washing that whole crop of people out for the real professionals to come in. And when the real professionals came in, they won the second wave of YouTube like it was child's play, right? And it was so much better. And I think that's what's about to happen here, is the net new entrants aren't gonna be like, oh, this is the next like person who came out of nowhere and just like did some cute animal jape and does well. No, I think this is going to be the cycle where like we see really good builders with more traditional experience come in, look at the space and say, I think I have a new interesting take on it. And so, it's actually surprised me that there haven't been as many bigger new projects that come up recently, right? Like, I think one of the bigger wins in, recently has been, you could say Mochaverse, like Mochaverse coming from Animoca Brands. That's, a pretty big thing that's happened over the bear market, right? That's not a legacy project. It's a project that's fairly recent. And that's by Animoca Brands, which is a group that has a lot of resources, right? That's on the like mid-tier new. That's not net new in this cycle, but that's new over the bear market preceding this, right? I think we're going to see more projects like that where it's not rushed. It's someone who's been watching the space for a while, who's deciding to make their play. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot is the people who I respect as like very good builders in one way or another, like, have been making their move to position themselves for the next market, right? Like, everyone feels it coming. They're saying, okay, I'm working here. Maybe I'm leaving to go start my own thing, right? Maybe I'm going to go join up with a friend of mine who I also respect from another project, and we'll do our own thing. But like, that has started to happen, and we haven't really seen that many of those new projects come to market. I think also we saw a lot of that ilk of person gravitate towards like Bitcoin Ordinals or Solana infrastructure for NFTs. Like, there's been a lot of things. We haven't seen net new launches that are that exciting on ETH. But there will be face melting runs of new projects in this cycle. Shiny new coins outperform like older ones usually, right? But that just hasn't happened yet. And it hasn't happened not because it's not going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet. And so definitely, like, I have been keeping my eyes peeled, talking to people about like what's coming up on the horizon. And there's candidly surprisingly few projects that are doing things right now, but that will change.
Absolutely. And, the comparison that you made to early YouTube, I think, is actually a very, very good one, because I have friends that have been in crypto for years, but they're like Bitcoin guys. Maybe one of them was like an ETH guy, and now he's kind of converted to Bitcoin. And I was talking with them over like the holidays, right? I was back home hanging out with them, and I brought up like some of the stuff that's getting action in the space, right? And at that time, used car, dog whiff hat, they were getting a lot of attention. And I described those things as shitcoins. I then brought up that I had bought a bunch of Pudgy penguins, and one of them said, that's a shitcoin. And I saw right there, I saw that they didn't understand the difference between a true shitcoin meme coin versus an incredibly high quality NFT project, right? Which, by the way, it's funny because one of them invested in our business, and I don't think he would call BoDoggo's a shitcoin. He just can't like draw the kind of distinction. He texted me yesterday about Pudgy penguins because he saw the run. And he goes, good call on Pudgies. What's the plan? And that question was basically like, are you selling here? And I was like, he still doesn't understand. He still doesn't understand that nobody even cares about NFTs yet. And this is happening. Ethereum hasn't even pumped yet. The Bitcoin halving hasn't even happened yet. So obviously I'm not going to take any chips off the table now. To give context, Spencer, you were a big reason why I deployed what I did into Pudgy penguins, not because of like a single conversation, but because of the ongoing discussions that we had over time. I then found myself right when liquidity was starting to cycle back into NFTs. It was months ago, because NFTs are the first to lose liquidity in crypto and the last to gain liquidity. And when I detected that liquidity was, coming back to NFTs, I just couldn't stop thinking about Pudgy penguins. And I was looking at them, and it was like midnight, and I'd been working all day. It was like one of these, ridiculous days of work. It was midnight, and one Pudgy was 6.6 ETH. And I think I had a few little Pudgies at the time, like 2 or 3, nothing crazy. And one big Pudgy was 6.6 ETH. I didn't buy it. The next day, same time, after a long day of work, it's like 11:30, 12 p.m. It's like 7.3 ETH for the Pudgy the next day. I literally got into my bed and I couldn't fall asleep. I was just thinking. I was just laying there awake thinking. I got out of bed at like 12:45 a.m. I went to my computer and I bought a Pudgy penguin for 7.4 ETH. The next day and the following 2 days, I accumulated a total. I finished with 11 little Pudgies. So I got a big Pudgy and 11 little Pudgies for 16 ETH total. And I stopped there. And there were moments where I was going to add to the bag, but I prioritized just getting more fungible tokens because I'm trying to not have as intense of a risk profile at this point. But obviously that investment was absolutely electric so far. And we haven't even hit the Bitcoin halving yet. So I don't anticipate anything to stop. I don't think the market is going to suddenly start treating Pudgy penguins like shit as crypto and the broader NFT market progress. I'd love to know what your thoughts are here in January 2024, before the Bitcoin halving, a week after the Bitcoin ETF. What is in your mind, how does the rest of this year play out? And what's your strategy when it comes to how you're going to manage the assets in your fund?
I mean, I think, look, it feels comfortable again to be risk on in a way that it hasn't felt as comfortable, right, in the last time. And you can read that two ways. One is, hey, it feels comfortable, we should be risk on. The other is, it feels comfortable if I'm counter trading the cycles, maybe I should be a little bit risk off, right? And TradFi is at all-time high. We have interest rates inbound, and one thing that you're going to see, right, is TradFi usually, when we know there's interest rate cuts, TradFi doesn't go risk on into the cut, because historically, the weeks that it cuts, there's a dump, right, on the market, because everything's up, and then the thing that they're pricing in happens. Kind of like what we saw with Bitcoin when the ETF got approved. It went up. The thing we all knew was going to happen happened, and then it was everyone who's going to buy on that news kind of already bought, right? The question is, will crypto decouple, or will it go down with come down in price with TradFi there? I think that's one of the bigger questions. But I almost feel it kind of doesn't matter, right? I think that when you step back and you zoom out, with interest rates coming down, after that, we will have a more risk on environment. And so we really even now, the run of Pudgy penguins is not due to net new inflows to crypto overall. You could make the argument that ETH went up in price because there's net new inflows to Bitcoin, but we haven't really seen net new inflows to funds. Where we're at in the macro cycle is funds are raising capital from their investors, right? The investors who wouldn't pick up their phone call a couple months ago are all right, this is Franklin Templeton's got its laser eyes. Let's chat again, right? There haven't been these billion-dollar funds announced that were raised in the last unit of time, right? That is coming, and that's a lot of what's going to drive future momentum. So as I look at this today, it's still people doing exactly what PO did, which is they're saying, okay, there's inflows to the asset class. I have paid attention for the time when no one was paying attention. So I know where those inflows are going to go. And that's what really changes prices. Like, where are the inflows going, right? And so I'm guessing, Pio, that was your thought process. You got out of bed and you said, okay, I think inflows are going to Pudgy Penguins. So like, let's do that.
My thought process was that I had accumulated about 20 Ethereum over the course of the bear market, because like after Bitcoin, Ethereum was like the second, crypto asset that I was buying. So when I felt satisfied with my Bitcoin investment, I accumulated about 20 Ethereum between $1,000 and $2,000. And I felt more comfortable having Ethereum in the leading NFT project on Ethereum versus Ethereum itself. I've historically gone on record that I'm not a huge Ethereum guy. That doesn't mean that I don't think that it's going to go up. That also doesn't mean that I don't think that it's going to outperform Bitcoin this cycle. That's not what I'm saying. But it's just not the thing that I have the highest conviction in it. And I had more conviction in deploying it into 2 NFTs. I bought Pudgy Penguins, and I bought one Mad Lad the day after Nick bought a Mad Lad for 80 Solana with Solana, or 85 Solana with Solana at like, I don't know, 25 or 30 bucks. It was kind of crazy.
That's one crazy returning investment. Yeah,
dude, that one Mad Lad buy, I was like, wow, like I really wish I had gone hard on that one. I only bought one, but like it was still actually a significant investment when it happened. But that was my thought process. And as liquidity was coming back, I was like, I know that this train is going to leave the station. I just didn't see. And I thought to myself, even if I'm buying a local top and Pudgy Penguins come down, I have actual conviction in this thing, just like, a typical asset. This isn't a gamble. This isn't a short-term trade. This isn't a swing trade, quite frankly. I'll buy the dip and be happy about it with this one, which is rarely the case with NFTs because they're so new and it's hard to have that deep conviction in them.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think this is you're reaping the rewards of watching what happened during the bear market and knowing where people like people are going to come back, and people come back in a couple of different ways. One is institutions with new inflows. The other is people like who are just vacationing in the Bahamas over the bear market are coming back to their computers. They're opening up their ledger that has a whole bunch of ETH or a whole bunch of USDC because they stabled up or whatever it is. And they're going, okay, calling up their friend who stuck around during the bear market and saying, well, what's hot? Like what's the thing now? And what is that person going to tell them? Right. And so, what if you were that person, or regardless of who you are, like you got to think like, where is the money going? Right. And I think this is, speaking of good Solana plays, like this has always been the BoDoggo thesis for me, is like people coming back to the space. They're going to come, they're going to watch a Twitter Spaces, right? They're going to watch a YouTube show. They're going to listen on Spotify. Nifty, team got your guys' influence over the bear market has grown across those channels. Like if someone comes in, they're like, where do I start? Like, this is a good place to start, right? And that means that you guys will capture some of the inflows. That's at least my thesis, right? I think this is the same thing with like, okay, what things on ETH capture the inflows? Also, something that's like very interesting this cycle, right, is like, unlike a prior cycle, there's a lot more ways to get exposure to Pudgy Penguins than there were last cycle, especially from starting from smaller dollar amounts. Like one thing that happened last cycle in NFTs was you'd see the big stuff pump. You didn't have 40 ETH for your Bored Ape or Mutant Ape or whatever. Like you had to get a different NFT to get exposure to NFT. Well, now we have stuff like Flooring Lab. You can buy 1/1,000,000th of a Pudgy Penguin if you want. Now we have stuff like Wasabi, right? You can leverage long 5x Pudgy Penguin on Wasabi protocol, right? There's a lot more one of the big changes over the bear market has been the dramatic increase of NFT-Fi infrastructure that has changed the way that you can interact with this. And I think because of that, we will actually see a lot more liquidity continue to gravitate towards the top projects because there's no longer the barrier of entry for exposure to a top project because you can buy via fractionalized or like perpetual swaps markets exposure at any size you want, right? And that wasn't something that really existed in any meaningful way in the last market.
Not at all. Literally not at all. And I knew it was inevitable that it was going to come about in some way because it just makes sense. I mean, look at Robinhood. I mean, it's already been laid out that people enjoy good user interface, flexible options, being able to buy fractional shares. It just makes sense. I'd love to just be able to DCA into a CryptoPunk or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, real quick, show is brought to you in partnership with Pizza Ninjas, one of the most highly anticipated Ordinals projects. We're going to have our buddy Trevor Owens on the show later on, in actually just a little bit, in about 17 minutes. Pizza Ninjas, of course, the 1,500 supply profile picture collection inscribed on pizza pizza satoshis. If you know about the Ordinals ecosystem, you know about how much value is placed on provenance and the history behind the sats. Very, very, very juicy stuff that we're going to be seeing, in my opinion, from the Pizza Ninjas. So the collection's minting tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Magic Eden's Ordinals Launchpad. We're going to be talking with Trevor about it in just under 20 minutes. It's going to be a great time. So Spencer, moving on from Pudgy Penguins, you've touched on BoDoggos, which is, of course, our project and has been a successful investment for you as well. Very happy about that, of course. You've touched on Meme Land, another home run for you in the fund. How about Blur and Blast? What do you see going on there?
I mean, look, like we talk about what are some strong narratives. You got to take a step back, right? What are the like meta strong narratives in crypto? I think this cycle, it feels the strongest is Alt L1, right? You see Solana, and I think the indicative thing there is not just Solana running, but Say running, right? Where it's like L1s, my understanding is L1s have a bigger barrier to entry in terms of technological development than a lot of other things. And so when there is a run in crypto, it's hard to say like, oh, shoot, let me just spin up an L1, right? This is
Yeah.
a higher barrier to entry. And it's just a strong narrative because, you know, I think it's conclusive that we're going to have a spot ETF ETH narrative. We're probably going to have a spot ETF Solana narrative. And then what, right? Like that's just like the clear thing that's probably going to happen. And so you have that. Okay, then you have what's the next strong narrative is ETH beta, right? As ETH goes up, what is the like proxy ETH exposure? You have clearly, you know, all the L2s, you got Optimism, you got Arbitrum, you've got Polygon. Like there's a bunch of these L2s that are out there. And I mean, in terms of what Pac-Man and team are looking to pull off, like Blast is interesting, makes sense. I think they're just going to do it, right? Like if with Blur at 2 billion, you have $1.5 billion bridged to Blast. Like, I think, and you know, who knows, right? But like, it wouldn't shock me, you know, that's a comparable amount of ETH bridged as a lot of the other L2s. It wouldn't, what it looks like their play is that they're trying to launch an L2 that has a native NFT ecosystem, which none of the other L2s really have accomplished. That's one of the reasons actually I think that Solana and Say both are having stronger narratives than the L2s, is they've been able to bring in an ecosystem of NFTs. Now, why does that matter? Well, because a lot of people have realized in the last cycle, one of the biggest drivers of ETH gas fee payment, when gas fee payment is the business a lot of these L1s and L2s are in, is collecting gas fees, right? And so like if your business is generating gas fees, well, guess what? NFTs and NFT-Fi create a lot of gas fees, right? They create a lot of transaction volume. They bring in a lot of users, right? It's a great, great, great thing. And who's going to most be able to capture that narrative? Well, gee, maybe it's the group that made the largest NFT trading marketplace, right? And so I think rightly so, I've talked to a lot of the bigger players in the space and like everyone's like, yeah. Blast is probably, look, market cap FDV of Blast, I would guess is somewhere like 5 to 20 billion. Like then I know that's a large range, but like it really has a very high potential upside because it's an L2, it's the strongest L2 going into this next cycle that's shiny and new, right? And I think you see this where like ETH runs and Blur price runs like 40% at the same time. Like it's a pretty substantial run. And you know, actually I recently added to my Blur position, like staked Blur position, because when ETH ran, you saw the other L2s run first, and it was like, huh? Like clearly, like Blur is, of all the L2s, I think one of the better ETH betas, right? Is like if you believe ETH has the strongest narrative going into this, which I think is a reasonable take given what we saw happen in the Bitcoin ETF. We haven't really we have an ETH ETF narrative. It's going to happen. Like it just makes so much sense. But like, you know, look, like what they're attempting to do is super, super interesting. And it's relatively easy to get exposure to, right? Like if you're just sitting in ETH, you know, NFA, DYOR, like there's risk of the bridge and there's a bunch of risks here, but like assuming that nothing bad happens with the bridge, like bridging ETH to Blast is just better than holding ETH, right? And that's like a crazy, it just has to be, right? And, you know, I think the incentive structure for people to build on it being so explicit, being so large, like they announced their competition yesterday, I mean, that's a big incentive. I think we will see a lot, and I've already talked to a bunch of teams, we will see a lot of very serious teams build on Blast. Additionally, because like, you know, not only NFT-Fi protocols, but like we're going to see like NFTs on Blast. Why? Because think about all the liquidity there. Think about you have the chain with the best NFT-Fi is clearly going to have NFTs, right? It's just kind of that simple. And I think as it stands today, Blast. Now we have other things coming up, right? Like the most, I think, direct competitor Blast is probably Frame. We see some other pushes happening, but like, I don't know. Like, I think a lot. Say what you will about Blur. Say what you will about Pac-Man, right? Like, but like in my heart of hearts, it's just gonna print for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's clear now that it's a tough case to make to say that Blur killed the killed the NFT market and all that. I mean, just look at what's happening right now. So I guess beyond this, Spencer, as far as the NFT, or I guess you talked about new narratives being favored in crypto. Say has only been out for 4 months. Are you looking at Say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Say. It's something that I've looked at in the past as well. I think the bull cases is that like Say is kind of what Sol was last time, where like there's just this face melting run on NFTs. One of the interesting things about Say is that like all of the top projects are made by the same team in the NFT space, and so that's a little interesting. I think I'm looking for maturity.
Listen, that may be true, but that's besides the point. Okay, say what you will. I'm confident Say is gonna cook here. I think it goes to like $1.50 right now. Like yesterday, the market sold off somewhat strongish, I would say, a couple percentage points across a few majors, and Say was pushing back to all-time high. The Cosmos ecosystem in general is just really interesting, like really, really interesting. I do have some concerns about consistent new users because that's like the big thing for me here, and I want to see that number continue to ramp, but you can't really fade these new chains at the start of a bull. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing for me.
For sure.
Like this, Celestia, Atom, couple of these other ones, it just seems like the narrative's really shifting towards Cosmos. And that's also why I'm like, okay, I'm like now even going one layer further into Blast and looking at this hackathon that they're doing and following every project that's applying for it, like every single one. Because that's where I'm like, there's going to be some sleeper opportunities in those first mover advantage apps that do tokens or NFTs or more on Blast, much like we've seen from these new chains. So I'm like, I'm not going to sleep on that. I'm going to start diving in and look at like the first NFT on Blast, the first perp index on Blast, the first tools on Blast for trading. Like all of those things are just copying narratives from other chains that have worked successfully. And if it's not broken, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Anything to add, Spencer?
No, I mean, I think Easy hit the nail on the head, right? Like this is one of those things, like don't right curve this, like left curve this. Just like look at Blast, look at Say, like obviously. It's just that simple,
it's like the
right?
biggest no-brainer in the world.
Yeah,
And if you don't want to dive into Blast, just I guess pick up some Blur if like you don't have time, because that's like the pseudo parent bet on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's,
and like
ways to navigate
too,
this for each bankroll and position of time and stuff like that.
You had to be a madman to be paying attention to NFTs, especially like NFTs on alt chains over the last 18 months. But like that's no longer true. You would have to be a madman not to be doing that right now.
Oh, 1,000%. And I mean, speaking of NFTs, you've taken an interest in Ordinals recently, at least from a discussion standpoint. I don't know if you've actually deployed capital. What's going on there in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like what's interesting to see on Ordinals is the focus on provenance, right? And I am a huge skeptic of the focus on provenance. I think that we saw this on ETH, and there was one winner, which was Punks, and that was a winner because of like Gary Vaynerchuk got on this call with all the influencers and told them to buy it. And like, there's like a lot of things that happened that made Punks, right? And I think that like what we then saw was a market where Bored Ape Yacht Club, you even had Cool Cats, you had like, you know, Artifact, you had all of these groups that just completely outcompeted almost every single like historic project, right? Why? It turns out people building a company behind the project was like more desirable than people not building. And so right now on Ordinals feels like the competition to not build for most of them, right? And there will be a winner. There will be something that's like the Ether Rocks, the Punks of Bitcoin. It may even be Bitcoin Punks. It may even be Bitcoin Ether Rocks. Like, I don't know. But I think what I'm really looking for is the people who are building companies, right? Not just focused on provenance related things. I'm actually probably going to mint, we're going to be minting the pizza Ninja Alert one. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's a team where I'm looking at them. There's a product, there's a team there, they're building. Stakeholdership feels interesting to me in that ecosystem, right? And so I've been doing exploration, looking at some other projects too. I think, there's also something too where like I may be totally wrong, but unless I feel very comfortable figuring out what I think will win, I'm just not going to make a play. And I'm okay missing everything that happens on Ordinals if I never get to conviction with anything on it, right? And so that's, I think, a good place to be too, is like, as much as I'm saying you should look at, say, you should look at Blast, you should look at Ordinals, there is too much to look at right now to get to conviction with a play in every single one of those buckets. Look at everything going on, find the ecosystem that you feel makes the most sense to you, and find the exposure across every ecosystem that you feel makes the most sense to you. And you're going to miss stuff, right? Like that. We're back in the time where like it is very beneficial that you are comfortable with missing a lot of things.
Absolutely. And I know Signal has a question. I'm going to throw it over in a sec. But what you said there, I think, is so valuable. Last NFT cycle, I got like FOMO when new NFT mints came out, aping into random stuff that just came out, deploying valuable ETH or valuable Solana into these different projects. It really is gambling. And a significant percentage of people that enter this space operate from a gambling perspective. And quite frankly, a lot of people view the entire space as a casino, which is interesting to me because you literally have the Bitcoin ETF. You have Larry Fink telling everyone that Bitcoin and crypto is the future of finance. He's already positioning himself for the ETH ETF, but people are still like, nah, this is a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to gamble on it. And that's just not what I'm doing this cycle. And I'm totally comfortable missing huge pumps on different things. I feel like what you just said about conviction is you're kind of saying, as long as I do the work and I try my best, I'm comfortable with however this kind of plays out. And if I miss stuff, I miss stuff. And that's going to happen because obviously you can't hit on every single thing. It's just not how it works. And someone just said it's not gambling, it's asymmetric investing. Amen, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Amen. Signal, what's going on?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Spencer. I'm curious on how you position yourself for gaming because we like the gaming has those teams. So you said that you're looking at the quality of the teams and who are the builders. If you look at the background of a lot of the people who are building games, they've come from the traditional gaming industry and then now in this ecosystem. So they have that pedigree. What are you looking at within the gaming system across different chains?
So this is a great example of the thing I just said, which is that how do I position myself for gaming? I don't. The next Axie Infinity will come out of one of these projects. It will make millions to billions of dollars for its holders. There will be great games that come out of this space. That being said, my understanding of the gaming space is that it is really, really, really hard to make a game, right? And even if you have the best team, look, the top studios consistently produce games that don't hit, right? You look at Overwatch 2, people didn't like, right? How much development went into that? And no one's putting that much development into a game. So I think gaming is really, really, really tough. And this may change, but as of now, I am sitting out the gaming narrative. And I'm not sitting out the gaming narrative because I don't think there's gonna be a winner that's gonna make a lot of money. I think there will be. It'll be great. It's just I haven't figured out how for me to look at the gaming space and say this is the exposure that I want versus that one, right? And again, there will be money made in gaming. Gaming makes a lot of sense. There will be infrastructure. I think that for me, how I felt the most comfortable with my exposure to gaming is exposure to the infrastructure that will be used on top of the gaming assets, right? And so I think that's one of the other things you can look at too is like, this is another of the plays with Blur. This is another of the plays with the L2s. This is another of the plays with the infrastructure on the L2s is like, what is the, like, let's say there's 100 games launching. You could try and pick the one of the 100 that's going to actually work, or every single game that launches is going to be traded on the same marketplace. There's going to be lending of this way. There's going to be automated like market making pools. Like what are the infrastructure that all of them will use? And then whenever one takes off, then the rest of it goes well, right? You got to look at this too, is like, this is kind of happening with Blur volumes, for example, like with Pudgy Penguins at 20 ETH, actually great example, Wasabi, right? Like Wasabi's volume in TVL has gone up a lot in the last couple of days, like millions of dollars. Why? Well, one of the leading factors is that there was a lot of there was a lot of TVL that was Pudgy Penguins, right? Micro Pudgy Penguin token. And so Blur, right? 100 Pudgies trade a day. That used to be less than half of what it is in terms of dollar value today, right?
The Wasabi thing's interesting to me too that you bring it up because like it actually like it's not like some other perps where you're speculating on thin air. Because of that flooring protocol backed, it actually has direct value of the token. So if enough people are long Pudgy penguins, it can or short, it can actually cause them to like a bank run situation, which is what we saw with Wasabi on captains, where they actually had to go and sweep the floor to repeg the token to the actual floor price. It adds another level of like really interesting dynamics to like NFT-Fi. It opens up a very interesting trade opportunity because like even if you're net long, it's basically just a leverage trade on the actual asset, like to its true core, where if you only have one ETH, you can still get actual exposure to the NFT. You're not just trading on thin air or a counterparty.
Yeah. No, there's a big difference between synthetic perps and covered perps. That's like a really important thing. And these are covered versus synthetic. Now, there's a question of the peg on the micro tokens, but they've also, since the captain's run, made updates to Flooring Labs, which increases the incentives to keep the reserve ratio higher. So I think that like the depeg is less, obviously not zero, but less likely. And so like this is again like so it's crazy the degree to which none of this existed in the last cycle
right? At all.
Even if like I mean we started to see inklings of it, but like it's just gotten so much better, right? And that's where like play around with that kind of stuff too, because it's like you have a lot of, and this is the other thing is like you have a lot more good synthetic bets on volume in the NFT space, right? Like is FLC a synthetic bet on volume in the NFT space? Is is Blur Token a synthetic bet? Like last cycle, the leading marketplace was OpenSea, which didn't have a token, right? So you didn't have, unless you could get OpenSea equity, you didn't have a great synthetic bet on like just overall volume in NFT space, but you have a lot of things that I think are approximately that.
I mean, incredibly well put. We're going to bring Trevor on in just a second, which I'm excited about. And Spencer, you're welcome to stay if you have questions for Trevor. I know often you have to run at 10 a.m. Real quick, Spencer, where should people find you? At SGSand1 is the Twitter handle. There's also one for Spencer Ventures, which is the, the sort of, that's the fund, the official institutional account. Anywhere else people should find you?
Yeah, I mean, just check us out, spencer.vc, check us out. I run an open DMs account, so it's been a little bit active recently, so I apologize if I don't get back to you, but like, there's a bunch of podcasts. There's a period of time where I was on this show a lot more. Apologies to the fans out there, but it's been kind of a busy last unit of time with everything heating up. So, things have been a little bit busy, but it's great to be back on the show and seeing you guys and just, look, like, I hope everyone's happy, excited, and continues to act rationally. Like that's my big ask out of everyone is like, if you've made life-changing money, take it. Don't bet the house, don't bet the farm, right? Don't bet anything you can't afford to lose. As much as this isn't gambling, this is gambling. And like my argument to you is not that this isn't gambling, it's that all the finance is gambling. And so like, gamble responsibly, right? Like make sure you're doing things that make sense for you. But also like if you're listening to the show right now, like you're in the right space at the right time. And that doesn't happen often in life. And so the opportunity set you have to build something as well as to trade, like we have tons of traders, there will be more traders, but your opportunity is to also be a builder. So if you've been thinking about it, like let this be your moment to build something cool this cycle, right? Like there's a lot of people, and I see Pio smiling because I know that Pio trades, but is a builder first. I know Easy trades, but is a builder first. I know
I don't
Sig
trade,
trades,
dude. I invest
as a builder first. Like, and I can see him smiling because I think that you are much happier and further along in life than you would have been had you just been investing versus also building.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, look at all the box. You can't see him, Spencer. I got to send you a picture, Spencer. The amount of boxes in my apartment right now, it's ridiculous. When guests come over, they're like, what the hell is this? The doorman in my building looks at me like I'm a psychopath, but it's all going to be worth it. It's the startup game. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of people. There you go. There's all the boxes. I know that a lot of people are going to be calling for Spencer to come back. I'm going to put a lot of pressure on him to come on more frequently. So don't worry. I'm knock on wood. We can get him. We're going to have Trevor on. Bunny, you have your hand raised. Bunny, what's going on?
Yeah. So here's what I took away from that. Easy, Pizza Ninja. Pio, Pizza Ninja. Clemente, Pizza Ninja. Spencer, Pizza Ninja. Bunny and Nick, no Pizza Ninja.
Okay.
What's up with that, dude? How do we get screwed every time?
Look, I'll sidebar with you on that, Bunny. I didn't expect that to be your contribution. Speaking of pizza ninjas, we have our buddy, our investor, Trevor Owens, looking sharp, got the beard back, got the HD camera, coming in live from, am I allowed to say where?
Sure, go ahead.
Live from Puerto Rico, ladies and gentlemen.
You literally said it earlier.
Oh.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, the
you
video was on. You're
already
like,
said
wow,
it.
this video slaps from Puerto Rico, man.
Trevor, you moved to New York and you're like, dude, we're going to be hanging out so much. It's going to be so cool. We're going to train together. We're going to be getting dinner, going out on the town, all this stuff. You lived in New York for 30 days. We hung out like 3 or 4 times in the 30 days. I was like, this is cool. I got another friend in New York. This kicks ass. And then you just left unexpectedly and you didn't tell me you left for months. What's up with that, man?
New York is great, man. I mean, I just got to be in Puerto Rico 6 months of the year. Otherwise, I get to New York, man. We can kick it back up this year. It'll be a good one.
Well, there you go. Well, look, this is a big day for you. This is the biggest day for you in crypto ever? Maybe?
One of, for sure. I mean, this is definitely going to be a highlight. I think like probably about every 2 years, you have a moment where you just know like this is a time where you've been at peak performance. You've put a lot of time and effort into something. You've worked those weeks at like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And this is one of those. And I'm super excited. I'm super proud. And I hope people like what we have to show today.
Hell yeah. So this project, you have done a phenomenal job of raising awareness. This, of course, is the Pizza Ninjas, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of provenance, these are all of them on Pizza Satoshis?
They're all in Pizza Satoshis. And in fact, we have some, even some more special Pizza Satoshis as well. Like we just described the first ninja on the first ever uncommon Pizza Satoshi. So there's only 373 of those that exist. It's one of the most scarce rare sats that you can find in Bitcoin. And so that was pretty exciting. But yeah, we went with the pizza because typically you go one of two paths. You either go just try to buy whatever is most expensive. I don't really think that's like a winning strategy from a business perspective. We wanted to tell a narrative of, the story, pizzas and ninjas like peanut butter and jelly. And I think that's also important to be a leading project in a certain SAT category. So we just want to be the number one, pizza project when, someday when Fox Business is talking about rare Satoshis, I think they're going to talk, of course, about the Casey Rodimer's Satoshis, like the uncommon, rare, etc. But I think the second one they're going to talk about is, of course, going to be pizza Satoshis. So we just want to make sure that our project was front and center. It made sense from a narrative perspective, from a storytelling perspective. And I mean, who doesn't love pizza,
Well, there you go. For people that don't know, can you talk about your background, whether it's in relation to stacks, Bitcoin, crypto, startups, all the above?
Yeah, so I bought Bitcoin first in 2013, in that kind of like right after the Silk Road collapsed, and I was very bullish on it. Actually, one of the co-founders of Stacks, Ryan Che, is a good friend of mine. I was the first advisor back in the day. This is before it was Stacks. It was like Blockstack. There's something even before this called One Name, and I spent most of my career as a entrepreneur and a developer in Web 2. Advising companies around the world on go-to-market strategy. And then in 2021, the 2017 phase wasn't really interesting to me because of all the ICOs and things like this. But when I saw what was happening with DeFi, with OpenSea, with MetaMask, I just knew that the space was, had made an inflection point change. Sort of like when I compare it to when DeepMind built AlphaGo and they beat the world champion in Go, which people thought would never happen. It took a long time for the space to really get to a place where you could build consumer applications on blockchain technology that were meaningfully different from Web 2. And I saw that in 2021 and went full-time into the space, first with our venture fund, which was originally called Stacks Ventures. Now it's Bitcoin Frontier Fund. We raised a small $5 million fund. We invested in 50 different companies building on Stacks and Bitcoin L1. Then Ordinals hit. I got into NFTs, of course, on Ethereum. Played around with Ethereum a lot. Made some good money trading and got hooked on it. That's when we launched Ninja Alerts, and had just been kind of in this weird place, being like a Bitcoiner who's also into NFTs and Ethereum. Yeah,
Bitcoiners are chastising you. The toxic Bitcoin maximalists are chastising you. The modern Bitcoiners are looking at you as a hero.
Yeah, and Ordinals dropped, and it was like I found my home there. But of course with Ninja Alerts, we support Ethereum. We want to continue to support Ethereum and Bitcoin. Those are our two main things.
Absolutely. And you jumped on Ordinals immediately, which is not a surprise. You understood the significance and you're excited. I mean, I'm assuming you felt like it was the most natural thing for you to plug into given your background. When we had Giancarlo on the show, we asked him what he thought the most significant thing that happened in the NFT and in crypto market in 2023 was, and he said Ordinals. Just how significant do you think Ordinals, the protocol actually is?
I mean, it's the most significant thing to happen to Bitcoin since Satoshi launched Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so Bitcoin is the biggest player in the space. It leads the space in the bull runs and onboards so many people. And so I think it's incredibly significant. And it's still early, honestly, on Bitcoin. It's still growing, and there's still like new people coming in. And I think it's going to continue to innovate this year and be a big narrative this year.
Absolutely. This video kicks ass, by the way. Little high def video from Puerto Rico here for the Ninjas. The mint is at 6 p.m. Eastern today on Magic Eden's launchpad. A lot of people might be new to, just buying an ordinal. So for example, I think some people paid a deposit. I paid a deposit for the ordinal. Does that change the minting process? And how do the different groups of people mint here?
Yeah, so everybody in the allow list, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We extended that for an hour to make sure that we get Europe and Asia on board at a time was convenient for them. Pio, you're going to claim after we sell out, so that's the pre-sale claim. And then we have, we had a huge leaderboard promotion. We made everybody grind to get allow list. Pio had to make a pizza video and submit it. Easy and Spencer had to go to a pizza party to get their spots, and so nobody got a free ride here to participate in this. And so the allow list is like a guaranteed mint. It's a small supply of only 1,500. We've already pre-sold many of those with deposit and reservation. And so there's going to be about 1,000 to 1,100 for that allow list. And the priority is like another 2,000 people. So it's like the first wait list, and then everybody else on the wait list in public.
Very nice. And is there any sort of technical know-how that one needs? Obviously, you need a Bitcoin wallet. Phantom Wallet has an Ordinals wallet. They're our partners. We're big fans of Phantom, in my opinion, the strongest user interface. A competitor and another Bitcoin wallet that's popular is Xverse. I know we also have Leather Wallet, Trust Machines. Shout out to Trust Machines. Any sort of technical chops that are required to get this done?
I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You're probably, familiar with the experience. The biggest thing to be aware of is that the network fees are expensive on Bitcoin, and that it can take a long time to get your Bitcoin moved around. So if you haven't moved Bitcoin for this already today, you got to do it right now, because these mint windows are going to be so quick that you will not have time to move Bitcoin as soon as it starts, because in the worst case scenario, Bitcoin block can take up to 60 minutes. And so if you're trying to move Bitcoin around and then you move some and you don't have enough for fees, you're going to miss it. I mean, that's the thing you got to be prepared for.
Layer 1 Bitcoin allows you to move $1 billion across the planet, fully settled in an hour, which is unbelievable. Try moving that much gold across the planet, or try moving that much fiat currency through a wire in that amount of time. But it's not as fast as, say, Solana for NFT stuff. So if you're trying to, just kind of shift things around like that, it's not going to be as effective. So how much for gas, you think, for the gas fee? 0.01 BTC?
We're recommending 0.009. I think you should be fine with that. But who knows, man? When Asia wake up, the mempool and those fees can go quite high. I mean, it's been pretty decent recently, but never know.
You never know. Spencer, Easy Signal. Anybody have a question for Trevor about Pizza Ninjas or anything? Or Clemente, here he is.
No, I have a quick question. So I saw that with the Ninjas, you built a lot of stuff in it. You mentioned that it's basically like an app, and you inscribed, I think, a Nintendo 64 emulator. Can you just talk a little bit more about what the Ninja comes with?
Yeah, totally. So we wanted to do something different. We wanted to show what Bitcoin could really do with ordinals and on chain, and kind of show people how the paradigm we think is going to change this year. And so, we looked at how CryptoPunks really set the tone for the whole space in terms of innovation. There hasn't been a lot of innovation since that. Like most of the top projects just copy that model. They're all static images. But with Bitcoin Ordinals, you can basically put like JavaScript on chain. You can use recursion in a way that's very simple. Like, of course, you can do it on Ethereum too, but the complexity, the cost, and the difficulty is 10 times higher than doing on Bitcoin. And so, basically the way we started is like we wanted to make something that was very high resolution. So we went with SVGs. The art that Boozy makes is incredible for that because of how the line work works. And then we inscribed all the traits as individual layers on Bitcoin, and we combined them with HTML canvas. And by doing that, we can use JavaScript and code to resize the image from like 2,000 pixels to 20,000 pixels, so big it could break your browser. We can use JavaScript to animate your PFP. So we have like a little API within the Ninja. You click the menu button, and then you can program an animation on your Ninja, like layer by layer, or even like body part by body part. And you can also add stickers. So we wanted to like make this a great PFP. People love to post like stickers. Pudgy Penguin's killing it with the GIFs, right? And so we want to make something that was inside the PFP where you just click a button. Hey, you want to have a GM tweet for your social media brand? You got it. You want to, Nick is going to FUD pizza Satoshis. Well, guess what? I got my Ninja ready to go. And we also put Chinese language ones as well, because we wanted to, appeal to the Asia audience, which is huge in Ordinals in a way that people probably aren't used to on Ethereum. And then, we had to go all the way. So we just literally inscribed a Super Nintendo emulator onto Bitcoin. We inscribed several public domain ROMs, and you can just go inside the PFP, click SNES emulator, and you can play Super Nintendo games that are inscribed on Bitcoin inside your PFP. So yeah, that's an overview of that.
Incredibly cool. You have proactively brought up that your annoyance with Nick not valuing pizza Satoshis and other rare sats. I mean, Nick, for whatever reason, Nick elected to do audio only today, but he is on stage, it seems. Is there any message you'd like to send to Nick now, Trevor?
Yeah, I would just say, like, don't capitulate yet. Like, I don't want the top to be in Nick. So, but check
whatever. You didn't invite me to your pizza party, so I didn't have none of this. What the hell? How am I? It's like, P.O. had to walk to a pizza shop or something like that.
No, I made a video. I literally made a Ninja video.
All right.
And Trevor was very firm about that. I was trying to get out of having to do that, and Trevor was like,
"Well, how many rare stats are these NFTs minted on?"
Everything is every sat has provenance. That's kind of the point, Nick.
Well, there we go.
Trevor, anything else people should know? I mean, one thing I want to bring up is that each Ninja gets full commercial IP rights. So taking a page out of the Strong Start that Bored Ape Yacht Club had, some time ago. And then obviously other projects that followed. BoDoggos give full IP rights as well. Lifetime access to the Ordinals portfolio tracker and wallet watching by Ninja Alerts, as well as the Alpha Group, which is kind of the organization that is behind Pizza Ninjas, although this is bigger than that organization, right? You're really trying to create a digital artifact on Bitcoin that will last forever, an on-chain inscription, an on-chain NFT, if you will. Anything else that people need to know about this?
I think we covered it, guys. I mean, really great to be here. This is a big day for us, and I hope people really just go into the Ninjas, look at the art, look at our design white paper. We also have an 88-page Git book, which is ninjaalerts.gitbook.io. We did a lot for this. This was a long effort, a 6-month project, and I think we really achieved our goal to push the frontier of Ordinals forward and show people what you can do in Ordinals that would be unique to Bitcoin and more challenging to do on other platforms. Because of course there's things that you can't do on Bitcoin. We don't have Turing complete smart contracts. What we do have is a very dynamic programmable layer for all of the art and how you can interact with art. And so I hope that people will take a look at what we've done and take some of the stuff that we've done and apply it to your own project. We want to support the builders out there. We want to bring people to Ordinals, and we want it to be an incredible year for NFTs, for innovation, and for Bitcoin.
Absolutely. So 1,500 supply, all inscribed on Pizza Satoshis. The provenance is there. 6 p.m. Eastern time. Allow list mint time. Clemente can pull up the full schedule on screen here. It's very clearly laid out, very organized. 0.03 Bitcoin mint price, right, Trevor?
Yep.
0.03 BTC. Allow list from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time. Priority from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Wait list from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Public from 11 to midnight. And afterwards, if you're on the pre-sale, that'll follow. Anything people need to know about that, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, if you need any help or anything, head over to the Discord, open a support ticket. I'm going to be around all day. After the mint's over, we're going to have, a community Twitter space. We're going to have a Telegram group for everybody to join and get token access. And so, man, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations, man. This is a big day. I know you've been working on this for literally months, and the community that you've built around it has been very, very, very cool to see. Obviously, I'm excited to claim mine, to mint mine. I'm very excited to see the result of 1,500 unique owners here, right? Nobody's getting two in theory, right? It's literally 1,500 unique owners.
I mean, there's a couple people on the team who got a team allocation. Like we made sure to include our team and stuff like that. And they also grinded the leaderboard to get a second one to get on the wait list and paid for it. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be, like 95% or whatever the number is unique.
Literally nearly 100% unique ownership, something that you don't commonly see in the Ethereum ecosystem when it comes to NFT. So very, very exciting stuff coming from Ninjas. Congratulations already, Trevor, but obviously the job is not done. Can't wait to see what happens later today. Everybody follow Trevor on X, on Twitter. It's at TO. Oh, Nick, go ahead.
I got a couple quick questions about this, which is one thing that I'm wondering about. One, it's not like an insane amount that you're minting here. Like, it feels very reasonable. Like, one of the challenges and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, Trevor, is in terms of like building out a business, and maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it's not relevant from this standpoint, but how do you think about, from a project standpoint, given the fact that there's no royalties on Bitcoin? I guess there were on Ethereum. There's not really anymore. But how do you view that from like a sustainability standpoint? Like, how do you continue to invest in the brand after a launch?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had royalties on Ethereum for a year either, but I think it's a great point. But I think royalties are really a nice to have. Like, the core of why we do this as a business is to have that like 1,000 true fans who are super engaged and passionate behind what you're doing, and to the point where they like literally FUD the competition for you. And I think that's a unique way that I see every business in the future, just like you guys are doing with BoDoggos. Every business is going to be, it's like community on steroids when it comes to Web3. We want to tap into that. I also don't think it's the business model is too different from what we've seen in Web 2. I mean, on the AppSumo days in Web 2, there's like plenty of companies who would do, a lifetime, Dropbox membership or a lifetime AppSumo membership, and they would have a limited quantity that they would give out to people as a marketing promotion. The difference is that when you have a really strong project, a strong PFP, a strong community, it's not a one-time marketing event; it's a lifetime marketing event. And we're not just doing this for Ninja Alerts alone. We want this project is going to be on Bitcoin for 100 years. It's going to be there. I'm going to be on my hospital bed, and the ninjas are still going to be there. And hopefully I'll have grandkids by then. They're going to be looking at these ninjas on Bitcoin. And we want the project we want Ninja Alerts to be one part of the project, one brand that uses the project. We want it to transcend any one company.
I love it. Well, the last thing I was going to say, dude, who's going to be on a hospital bed, man? We got AI now. Like, that's just not happening.
Brian Johnson, he's helping us live forever.
Little did you know, Pio, I got on his VIP list to actually trial run his food and his whole package of things that he has right now. I was selected and to participate in the trial.
No way. There's no way you're living longer than me. That's complete bullshit. I'm living forever.
Do you want to be on the trial?
Yeah. Well, if you're you're not living longer than me. So yeah, absolutely. I'll go on the trial with you. Yeah.
It's kind of expensive, actually.
Oh, maybe
What's
maybe
the
you
price
could
tag
just
looking like? What's the price tag looking like?
you can share some of the shit. You know, you're incentivized for us to both just live forever, do BoDoggos forever. You know.
Exactly. The BoDoggos will be on the blockchain for 200 years, dude. Like, I guarantee it.
Well, now we're talking. Trevor, such a pleasure as always. Love making content with you. Love just being pals, even though clearly the friendship meant a lot more to me than it did to you because you left New York within 30 calendar days. But it's all good, man. How's Puerto Rico? You enjoying yourself?
You guys got to move here. I mean, at least 6 months of the year. That's all you got to do. Move to Puerto Rico. Yo, if you're not in Puerto Rico when this bull run kicks off, like, what are you doing?
We're working on Miami first. We're working on Miami first.
It's not even the benefits are not even close.
I will say I lived in New York longer than Trevor. 4 months versus 30 days. Let's go.
He lived in New York for years before. Get out of here, Clemente. He can handle New York. Nick, go ahead.
Both of you are definitely not New Yorkers. The thing I was going to say is, if you want to move down to Puerto Rico, what you can do is you can hang out with all the people that discuss living in Puerto Rico to save taxes. And we can all look at each other and be like, yo, we're all about saving taxes. In New York, the conversations are a little bit different. It's a little more.
Yeah.
What's that?
The taxes in New York are the worst. Like,
oh, absolutely. And Trevor lived in New York for years, so he knows. But yeah, Nick, I like picturing just Trevor and everybody just having a beer and a cocktail in their incredibly nice apartments because I'm sure the cost of living is cheaper. And they're like, look at us saving money on taxes on the beach.
On the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas here we're talking about actual real culture, but it's all good. We get taxed for it. We get taxed for living in society. That's it. It's a distinction. Maybe Trump can come down there and donate some toilet paper to you next time.
There you go, Nick. Anyway, look, what a day for Pizza Ninja. 6 p.m. Eastern time. Magic Eden 0.03 Bitcoin price. Highly anticipated, highly sought after collection. 1,500 supply inscribed on pizza Satoshis by the Ordinals man himself. Besides Casey Rodemore, Trevor is absolutely top of the heap. And I know that the entire Bitcoin and Ordinals community that's down with Ordinals, which is growing and is already sizable, is going to be all over this one. When we host the Bitcoin show, I look into the audience and is just a sea of Pizza Ninjas and has been that way for literally months. So, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see this. This has been a long time coming. All your hard work's about to pay off, Trevor. Congratulations in advance. And thank you so much for joining the show today. Best of luck later on in the day. Break a leg, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Love the show.
Absolutely. Follow Trevor at TO, ladies and gentlemen. Follow Ninja Alerts at Ninja Alerts. For any questions that you have, hop in the Discord. What a big day for Ninja Alerts, for Trevor, and for Bitcoin Ordinals. Spencer pointed out that he's looking for some builders. That's what he wants to invest in on Ordinals. Well, guess what? Later on today, you can do that, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a great day to kind of start paying attention to the Ordinals ecosystem. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. We do the show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, each and every week. It's available wherever you get your content: Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, X platform for Twitter Spaces or for video, basically wherever you're going. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening, and best of luck to everybody.